Thank you, Mr. President. Before I begin my remarks, I do want to just make a historical note that some time ago when I went to our Secretary of the Senate and asked about the prospects of honoring a very good friend and retiring Speaker of the House, what the protocol was. Did her work, did her research. There was really not a protocol. And I felt that many of us in this chamber, including myself, want to take an opportunity not only to honor the retiring Speaker of the House, but put in place a protocol for somebody of such a fine individual here in the Capitol. So with that, I'll begin my remarks. You know, many years ago when I first met Sam, I can tell you he did look younger. He did look slimmer, and I believe he did get more sleep. But with all that said, he was simply Sam from Punxsutawney. You know, over the years, a relationship that was based purely political became a relationship of friendship. And watching Sam over these years grow into his job has been a learning experience not only for myself, but I believe a learning experience for anybody else that's observed. As we know, he has served for 27 years for the Commonwealth. Prior to becoming Speaker in 2011, he was a member of House leadership for 10 years. In 2000, his colleagues elected him Majority Whip, and from 2003 to 2010, Sam served as leader of that caucus. His thoughtful, unassuming, methodical approach to issues and confrontation is a refreshing lesson in that we can all disagree, but disagree in a civil manner. Sam has truly exemplified that. Sam has been a champion for numerous legislative initiatives and undoubtedly the father of educational block grants in Pennsylvania, which provide a strong funding source to allow public schools flexibility and accountability. And he's made public education in Pennsylvania much better because of that. My entry into politics and eventually winning a seat in this chamber is largely, if not entirely, the works of Sam Smith. Some of you may praise him for that, some of you may criticize him for that, but it was Sam who, in very difficult times in the 25th District, came forward and had a plan that not only, I think, saved the Republican Party that year in that district, but truly had an innovative way of bringing an independent candidate into the Senate. He did develop an early strategy, and election night, not knowing whether I won or lost, and truly we did not know whether I won or lost until the last two precincts came in from Potter County, winning by 197 votes. That's not the issue. What the issue is, Sam made the trip to Brockway to spend that night with myself, my family, my friends, not knowing if I won or lost. And we all know that many people only show up when you win. And he was there because he is a friend. One of my most memorable life experiences will always be sharing an apartment with Sam. Many of you have heard me speak in the terms of the odd couple, such as Oscar Madison and Felix Unger. I'll let you figure out who was who. But I can tell you whatever you heard, it's true. Spending time with Sam outside the busy halls and offices of this building or a noisy restaurant downtown really gave me a personal insight to Sam's beliefs and his personal life. Sam's strong Christian beliefs has been the backbone of his success and his demeanor. He has a deep belief in God and has been a shining example of how daily prayer and living a good life in the eyes of God bring many blessings. And I think we'll all agree he has truly been blessed. During Sam's career, he has been a leading and strong voice for not only his district, which I share, but all of rural Pennsylvania. And speaking on behalf of those rural beliefs and those rural issues, he has been a strong, true leader. Today, I am honored to have him on the floor of the Senate to recognize these outstanding achievements, his life and his retirement as Speaker of the House. And Sam, I truly wish you many good years of health, God's blessings as you return back to Punxsutawney as simply Sam. God bless.
Further, on our very special guest, the chair recognizes Senator Pileggi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to briefly make some additional remarks and thank Senator Scarnati for beginning a tradition that with a special person, Sam Smith. I think it's a great opportunity to have the Speaker of the House here on the floor of the Senate and to say some kind words about him that are deeply felt. I want to personally congratulate Sam for 28 years of faithful service to the people in his district, but also to the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. On a personal note, I want to thank you publicly for what you did 7 years ago when I was first elected leader. You were an experienced leader, an experienced legislator, and you were courteous, you were patient, you were helpful, and you didn't have to be. And I very much appreciate that, and I want to publicly thank you for that. Last week, someone sent me a book that I opened this weekend and started to read. It's called Good to Great, and the author is Jim Collins. It was a bestseller in 2001, which is a little bit dated, but it's still a good book. And what Collins did in that book was go around to the companies he thought were great and did an exhaustive amount of research to try and figure out why they were great and not just good. And what he found were that there were leaders in those companies that made them great rather than just good. And the description of those leaders were that they were humble and modest. They were quiet, but with an inner intensity and unwavering resolve. They were comfortable not being in the spotlight. They were devoted to the organization rather than themselves, and that they are always looking forward to the organization's future. In reading those words in that book, I couldn't help but think of Sam Smith. I've watched him lead a diverse and large organization, the House of Representatives here in Pennsylvania, and he's done it with a skill and a style that's allowed him to remain not only respected by members in the House and the Senate, but many of us consider him a personal friend as well from those experiences that we've had with him. So I want to, again, offer my congratulations and best wishes, Sam, on your retirement.
Further, the chair recognizes Senator White.
Tough to follow those good remarks. Mine are a little more personal. And I go back to I had heard of Sam Smith back in my region. He was, his mug was in the paper all the time, so you couldn't help but know who he was. But I'd never met the man. In January, when I decided of 2000, the same year that Joe was running, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to run unless I had the endorsement of Sam Smith. So it was a cold January morning, and I drove up there, and I found out afterwards that he was sitting there himself, sitting in his office thinking, oh, if this jerk comes up here with a coat and tie, it's 10 degrees out, snow's up to our butts, I'll have no respect for him. So luckily I chose a parka and jeans. And we sat down there and we talked for an hour. But I did say I wouldn't run unless you feel that I was capable. Now here he was taking some guy that never so much as went to a Republican committee meeting or rally or anything other in his life other than voting Republican all his life. He worked hard for me in that race, and Joe mentioned in his remarks that he spent time in Brockway that night. Well, he also spent time in Indiana that night at my campaign headquarters, following Joe, following his house races, and was there to share the moment with Joe and myself. He's given me invaluable advice. His phone calls during the campaign picked me up when I was feeling down, and he always knew that I was maybe a little bit of an emotional wreck and needed some guidance and needed to be pulled back every once in a while. And over these 14 years, I couldn't ask for a better friend. We've shared highs and lows. He's been there with me personally on my own personal issues, and he's given me special handling. I've adored what he's done in the House, and I especially his work recruiting great people for the House, especially in my area, people like Jeff Powell and Don Oberlander, and especially a protege of his that I think has big things in store, Dave Reed. I'm proud of what he's done there. And, you know, Joe talked about his election, how he had a nail biter. Well, we both ran that at that time, and neither one of us were expected to win. I had to fight a 17-year county commissioner who was anointed by my predecessor. Joe was going up against a felon with an ankle bracelet. But but he managed to win. And he credits that to Sam, and I think that's, but to this day, I like to remind Senator Scarnati, you know, seniorities, if you come in the same year, is tabulated on votes, and I have seniority on our pro tem. But to think that those two came from Little Jefferson County is truly an amazing fact. Sam is Sam, and I'm very proud of what he's accomplished. And out of respect, I will always consider him a foxhole buddy. Punxsutawney is only 28 miles away. It's my hometown too. And you're a foxhole buddy for life, Captain Mike Captain. Thank you.
Further, the chair recognizes Senator Argall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, this is the first time I've been able to put those two words together here. Sam, you'll probably not be surprised to learn that for the last 5 years I stand here and I frequently say Mr. Speaker, and the rest of them, you know, laugh, and so it's nice to be able to do this today. To Senator Scarnati, thank you for beginning this historic tradition. I think it's very much in order. I was pleased when Sam was leader to sit next to him for 4 years in the House. And I will tell you that during those 4 years, I learned more from Sam about Pennsylvania government and politics than I did in many of my grad school classes. And if I know Sam and Tony Aliano as well as I do, right now they're thinking, yeah, but you still didn't learn enough, and you'd probably correct. Certainly, Senator Scarnati had mentioned his work in rural education. I also well remember his work rolling up his sleeves as the prime sponsor of the Growing Greener initiative. And now today, we all give speeches about what a wonderful program that is and how it has helped communities with acid mine drainage and fixing up state parks and state forests. And we can't imagine that anyone could be against it. Sam will tell you that on that day, there were a lot of people against it as we fought off amendment after amendment after amendment, but he never lost his cool. As I said, he wasn't afraid to roll up his sleeves on the tough issues, just as in the last year he was willing to do it for bridges and road funding, not just in his district, but in communities large and small all across Pennsylvania. And so as an old House guy and a friend, I'm very pleased to congratulate Sam on many years of good service. He's served his district well, and he made a difference in Pennsylvania. What more can you ask for? I don't know what the future brings to the gentleman from Punxsutawney, but I wish him all the best.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes Senator Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues, for allowing me this opportunity to say a few words about Speaker Smith. It is, although I didn't serve in the House the longest of any senator that served with Sam, I did serve a longer period with him as speaker. And allow me to share a few prepared remarks that I put together. And I actually put a title on my remarks. I called it Sam Smith, From Rebel to Statesman. Mr. President, when I was first elected to the General Assembly, I had the privilege of having Sam there to help me as a freshman legislator. I was learning the ropes of state government. His insight and experience were invaluable. He exhibited practicality and common sense, and he was a man of deep faith. I came to the House as a very naive 31-year-old. Sam had been in the House for several terms, and he was from rural northwestern Pennsylvania, so we had a lot of common issues and a lot of common viewpoints, and we were also invited to a lot of those same regional kind of meetings and events back near home, so we crossed paths often. And we also had what is really nostalgic for me, or they were infamous, Wednesday morning coffee sessions here in the Capitol each Wednesday morning that a whole group of us really bonded through those and ended up getting cups with our names on it. It was a neat thing. It was a great group. But Sam provided invaluable help to me, especially with the amendment process. Back then, when I first came, we were in the minority, and that was really the only way we could get things done. And that was back in the days when, quite frankly, everything of imports seemed to be done in the administrative code and done in the sine die session. And Sam really helped guide me through that process. And I might add, he did introduce me to Steve McNett and Senator Robbins, and you know, betwixt us all, we were able to do some stuff back then. Representative Smith had a particular guidance to me on natural resources legislation. He was an expert in dealing with coal mining. He has several bills in that arena, but he also helped me immensely with oil and gas legislation, and that was very, very important to me and continues to be important to me to this day, and I appreciated his help very much. You know, more than any other skill that Sam Smith has, he has the ability to count votes. And that is a reflection on his knowing the idiosyncrasies and the priorities of each and every member. And folks, that takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of insight, and Sam has that. It's a skill that's made him an effective legislator, and it's a skill that helped him climb the leadership ranks. I think I speak for a lot of folks when I say that as I grow older and mature, there is a satisfaction, not just in our achievements, but more, as time goes on, more importantly, to see others succeed. That there is a sense of satisfaction there. Over the years, as I grew and spent more time here as a legislator, my respect for Sam grew even more, because I particularly remember the times when he stood steady as a rock when some very critical things were happening in the House, and he was in leadership, and that was not an easy thing to do, but my respect for Sam just went through the roof at that time. And to his credit, Sam weathered many, many trials and storms, and he always did it with style. And I might add that from time to time, part of those storms were, you know, I was part of them, obviously, but he dealt with that too. So for my colleagues here in the Senate who've never had the opportunity to serve in the House, let me tell you, that chamber can be much more raucous, and the proceedings can be very vocal, and the emotions are very raw. And there was a day that Sam was part of that raucousness, both in caucus as well as on the floor. But over the years, he's mellowed into a relaxed, confident, and controlled demeanor. It's been gratifying to watch him grow in his abilities to very ably project the dignity of the House and the dignity of the Speaker's office. And now, as I witness on PCN, there is a Speaker Smith who is a palpable comfort zone when he's presiding. That comfort allows him to strategically display either firmness or a quickness of wit whenever that's appropriate. Speaker Smith, you'll be missed by your colleagues, but more so by your constituents. And I think nobody was prouder of your hometown than Sam Smith. He vigorously defended the only true weather prognosticator, Punxsutawney Phil, and even though one time he did let it slip on the floor that he had fond memories of his father shooting groundhogs out the window of his car. So Sam, please accept my best wishes for a long, happy retirement, and may God bless you in your journey. Thank you, Sam.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes Senator Corman.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker. Welcome. I think this is great that we're doing this. I'm told we haven't done this very often for speakers are retiring, and I think it's quite appropriate. People might not know that 14 years ago, we in the Senate Republican caucus recruited the Speaker with a lot of excitement and the vigor to try to get him to run for the Senate. And he decided no, after a long courtship, that it was something he did not want to do. He wanted to stay in the House. And I'm sure right now that President Pro Tem wishes he had run for the Senate instead of getting the senator from Indiana County that we got 14 years ago. But anyway, maybe it worked out best for all parties. But Speaker Smith and I have something in common. We were both legacies. The Speaker and I both were benefited tremendously in both our personal lives, but our political lives, that we had fathers who were not only public servants, but great public servants. And I can remember I was fortunate enough to be friends with the Speaker prior to coming to the Senate and running for the Senate, and I sought him out for advice about running as a legacy, and his advice to me was a good one, not only as a candidate, but as a public servant, which was, don't ever give off a sense of entitlement. Give off a sense that you're willing to work hard to earn your position, not only as a candidate and then hopefully as a senator, but then as a senator to work to get things accomplished. And it's probably good advice no matter who you are, but particularly as a legacy where most people think that you feel like you have a sense of entitlement to come to this position because your father had it before you, and that was exactly opposite the case. We actually, as President Bush actually said to me once, when you run for a seat that your father once held, that you inherit half their friends and all their enemies. So it can be a challenge at times, but we both benefited tremendously because both of our fathers were great public servants, and I think that the public gave us the benefit of the doubt when we sought out election ourselves. When I first got into leadership as Appropriations Chairman in 2009, that was the rather long, lengthy budget battle with Governor Rendell, which dragged on until November. And even though the Speaker was a minority leader at the time, they had a significant impact in that debate by them holding steady as one caucus, strong, and preventing and giving the other side the votes to pass a personal income tax that the governor wanted at the time. That did not give them the ability to pass it over there, which would have put a lot of pressure on us as we were fighting that same battle. And the Speaker, as the senator from Venango County said, held that caucus together as one, and even though he was a minority leader, had a tremendous impact on the outcome of that budget battle. I've enjoyed our leadership meetings over the last 4 years. The Speaker has an interesting style. Those meetings can get contentious at times. I can't remember once that you and I actually bowed it out, but he has a steady hand and a patient hand, things that I need to learn at times. And he's served his caucus and served the House well. When you retire, people always ask about your legacies, and it's sort of hard to define what a legacy is or might not be. Pennsylvania's had a rich tradition of outstanding speakers. All the way back to the beginning of Pennsylvania's founding, we've had tremendous speakers. Unfortunately, before Sam got there, the speakership in the House came under some scandal. And I think if Sam Smith has a legacy, is he brought dignity and respect back to that position. And on behalf of all Pennsylvanians, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for that.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes Senator Volakovich.
Well, that sounded good. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, I certainly want to congratulate you on all your years of service. Public service is a great thing. It fills your heart with warmth that when you think about all the people that you help. We go through an embattlement there where people criticize us for a lot of things that we do. We make some mistakes. But when you really think about all the good things we've done and the people we've helped, I think, as the good nuns used to tell us, you built your treasure chest up in heaven. So I think you need to keep that in mind. Just a little levity here. On your path over to this hall today, I want to congratulate you on making the movement from the darkness into the light. So and I'm glad to be part of that. Going back to I started in 2007, and it was a year when 50 new freshmen between Democrats and Republicans. And it was a year, a lot of younger people coming on, a lot of different ideas, and it was a little hectic. But I enjoyed myself immensely. My person that I respect the most was Representative Rick Sesser, who he was a policeman like I was, but he was there when I was just a little tot, and he's the guy that gave us the little boot to the pants when we didn't do what we were supposed to do in our local community. And he said to me, when you get to Harrisburg, he says, watch closely, keep your mouth shut for a while, watch closely, he said, and try to follow Sam Smith, because he knows more about how the workings go than anybody else. So stick with him. And I took that to heart. I can tell you that Senator Hutchinson brought up about the floor over in the House, which is very unique. And you noticed the whole time we were all talking here, that gavel wasn't hit once. And that's amazing, because over in the House, we had heard it probably 24 times already. And it's a difference between the House and the Senate like that, but that's just the way it is. And I want to comment on this. There's times when I would sit back and listen to some of the speeches from certain people and think, why doesn't he gavel them or just cut them off or something? And but I noticed a quality in you where you never wanted to embarrass anyone. You really worked so hard not to embarrass someone, and you gave them that little stretch. You gave them as many warnings as you had to give, and even then you tried to make it so that they could sit down with a little bit of dignity even after they went too far. And that's a quality in a person when you work with 203 people. So I think I have to thank you for my experience in the House, which, I'm happy over here, but I do miss the House. I do. And sometimes you sit around and you just shake your head, and it's 9 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock, and you're getting pretty tired. But I have to admire you for how you handled being Speaker, because I really admired the way you treated people and gave them their time to get their point across. And that's an important attribute. So I wish you all the best luck with your family. Enjoy yourself. You won't get beat up as much now. And God bless you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes Senator Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's interesting, other than Senator Pileggi, I'm the only one from the Southeast to stand up and say a good word about you. I saw all these rural, central Pennsylvania, Don Waits, and Senator Scarnati. I didn't know Sam Smith was responsible for your landslide victory that year. But we used to call Joe Landslide Joe in that great victory. But you are the roommate of Senator Heckler, Judge Heckler, DA Heckler, who came up here last night to pay respects to you for your retiring. And most people don't know that you shared an office. Your desks were side by side. And when I would go in to take counsel from Senator Heckler, I had to listen to you at the same time. And Senator Heckler could bluster a little bit and a little bit full of his opinion, and you do the same. So I got great tutelage. And When I came here in 1990, you were the old guard. I was just the young pup, and you were the old guard. But I would say that someone from the Southeast, who was part of the Sam Smith caucus for a little while there, when we had the Sam Smith caucus, it was a great thing to sit down with people from different parts of the state and share what our interests were, share personal points of view, but share our political points of view, share what's interesting to each of us, because we do come from a very diverse state. And Sam, you did a great job as Speaker. You did a wonderful job as a representative for your district. You honored your district by your service. You succeeded your father, and together you two served 52 years in this institution, which I think is a remarkable thing and a wonderful thing. But I think the thing I respect most about you is that you respected my difference of opinion. When I disagreed with you, you gave respect to that. When you disagreed with me, I respected that opinion. And I think that's what really makes this work. I go out and speak to high school kids around my district, and they say, what's one of the most important things you have to be a senator? I said, you have to have respect for other people. You have to have people skills. You have to be able to communicate with people, and you have to understand what their needs are. And you took those skills on into the speakership and took those competing interests, those diverging differences, you somehow melded them together, realized that everybody has to have some kind of win in these compromises, and if we don't get a compromise, we don't get anywhere. So from those early years with you and Senator Heckler in that office, listening to you two, bandy back and forth, early days on the House floor with you, Senator Vance and I, and Gerlach, and Dent and Juliana, that was our year, the 1990 year, and you were a great mentor because you were there so much longer than I was, 4 years. But thank you, Sam. Thank you for not only representing your district, but representing the people of Pennsylvania, taking diverging interests, making them work, listening to people, and doing the best job that you could do for the Commonwealth. It was truly a pleasure and an honor to serve with you and to watch you as Speaker of the House. Thank you, Sam. Good luck and God bless you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes Senator Costa.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of my colleagues, I too rise and congratulate my friend Sam Smith, Speaker of the House. Just a few moments ago, I was reminded by my good friend Senator John Yadichak that when he first appeared in the House of Representatives, he was provided with some great advice from then, I think, Majority Leader Smith. And the advice was, young man, if you've got remarks, submit them for the record, and you'll go a long way. So that being said, Sam, I am going to provide my remarks for the record as you counseled John Yadichak to that end. But before I conclude that, and there are 3 pages of remarks that I think summarize basically what so many folks have said here today. And I can share a personal experience as well. When I started into the back in around 2007, 2008, began to get engaged in those leadership discussions that were centered around the smaller group of folks getting together, whether it would be at the governor's residence or even different meetings in the governor's office. My first foray into those very limited, in terms of numbers, folks that were engaged in those final budget discussions or policy issues. Sam and I sat in a similar seat. We were both minority leaders. And I can say to folks here that for me, he was somebody who made certain that the role that I played, and that representing a minority caucus, I should say, he didn't allow us to get stepped on. He made certain that our conversations, and as things went forward, we were included in those conversations, and our voice, the voice of our Senate Democratic Caucus, was heard. And he did it in a respectful way, but most importantly made certain that our views were a part of the conversation that were taking place. Even while others in that room were looking past us, thinking that our views weren't important and didn't need to be part of that conversation. So Sam, thank you for that early support and that effort along those lines. But also over the course of the years, I've had a chance to talk to Sam from time to time about governing and leading, and he's been an outstanding leader in that respect, and I want to say thank you for that, the advice you've provided to me. And it's the things that folks have talked about. It's your ability and willingness to work with folks, to reach a compromise, and as Tommy's just said, working to make sure that everybody felt that they had success in that conversation and in that compromise, because that's what makes a good compromise, folks knowing that we did something that was worthy of being done, but it was crafted in a way that folks felt comfortable moving and advancing it in a bipartisan, bicameral way. That was important.
but also your relationships with so many folks in this room, working to keep members of both sides of the aisle together and in conversing and being part of a General Assembly, one General Assembly. We were all working in the same direction. I applaud you for that. And I also applaud you for the manner and the way that you uphold the history of this institution, and you view it as an institution, and that it should not be harmed as we go forward. And I applaud you for all your leadership along those lines. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't touch upon something that I noticed in the last couple of years of your tenure here in Harrisburg. I've come to learn as a co-coach with you, as the Hunger Games, as we'll call it, the charitable softball games that we have done, East versus West, Yins versus U's, your ability to manage a team of 35 players and make certain that everybody has an opportunity to participate in the games and have an opportunity to be part of that conversation and that fun that we had where we were working along with so many of our colleagues to raise money for hunger programs and organizations around the Commonwealth. So Sam will leave here this General Assembly with a 1,000 winning percentage as a manager of the East or the Western team and the Yunzes. And I want to congratulate Sam, and quite frankly, I thought he did an outstanding job as the speaker, making sure that we had that type of engagement. I think it was very, very important. So Sam, congratulations along those lines. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about some of the things we started a couple of years ago about how we talk about issues in the General Assembly here. Sam was at the forefront of helping us craft work that allow members to appreciate who we are as a caucus and as a General Assembly and as a chamber. The historical perspective of how we started when we did work with the folks from Temple and other organizations to remind members of different issues. You know, where we come from and where we are today and how we deal with those challenges. Sam, along with Senator Pileggi and Scarnati, were at the forefront of making certain that we had those what I'll call training sessions for new members, but also other opportunities to begin to have dialogue on very, very important issues outside this building in a bipartisan, bicameral way. That type of learning environment was helpful for the members, I believe, and something, quite frankly, that I look forward to reinstituting a little bit more next year as we begin with a new class of legislators, both here in the Senate, but also in the House, to remind us who we are, remind us where we come from, and most importantly, remind us what our job is at being elected as elected officials, representatives of the people we represent in our community. So Sam, my best to you. Congratulations on a job well done. Pennsylvania is a better place because of your participation in this General Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Well, in the annals of everything has been said, but not everyone has said it yet, comes my meager offering. I never had the opportunity to serve with Speaker Smith in the House, despite my best efforts, but I do remember meeting Sam Smith for the first time. It's actually in a car with my then boss, Senator Tomlinson, and we were either on our way to Hershey or coming back from Hershey. And I know this might shock some of you, but as a younger man, I was a wee bit egotistical. I was a little full of myself. I know that's shocking. But I got up my courage and I went and I said, "Representative, I'm Jim Cawley from Senator Tomlinson's office. It's so great to meet you." And he looked at me and goes, "Yeah, I know." And I was absolutely deflated. But after years of therapy, it occurred to me that what Sam was trying to convey was that in this business, it's important for us to be genuine. It is important for us to be honest. It's important for us to be direct. So Sam, here's direct. You've been one hell of a public servant. You've served with honor, you've served with integrity, you've served with dignity, you've served with compassion. You have done what everybody in this room hopes that someday can be said of them. You have made a difference for the people that you represent and for the people of Pennsylvania. Your legacy will live long after these words have faded. God bless you, sir, and congratulations. And now it is my pleasure to invite to the podium the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Sam Smith.
Thank you. I told Senator Scarnati I wore a suit because he doesn't like to see me in a sport coat, and I'm kind of a sport coat kind of guy, but he, is a suit guy. So I said I wore a suit. What I didn't know is I needed my hip waders as well. It was getting a little deep here for a minute or two. And I appreciate the heartfelt comments. I started to make a list in my mind, but I thought I'll be here for too long to rebut some of these things or add a little color to the commentary. I would remind Senator Hutchinson that one of my minor achievements in the House was to actually get you to vote for one budget before you left the House. Scott only had one switch at his seat. It was the no. Right before he went to the Senate, we actually got him to vote. My chief of staff actually went and stood by his desk just to watch him and enjoy the moment. Senator Scarnati mentioned the apartment. I was glad he didn't get into those details too much. I am the Oscar Madison, if there's any doubt. And we were an odd couple. But it was one of those things that not many of us have the opportunity to do, and that is to commingle, what's going on in the Senate, what's going on in the House, and it really benefited us greatly in just gaining understanding. As well as it did, Senator Tomlinson made reference to, East versus West in this state, and we all know how many things divide on those lines as much as they divide on Republican and Democrat lines, perhaps. There I was, a member from a single county, had all of Jefferson County, a little bit of Indiana County. Over the years, that's changed a little bit, but it was always Jefferson County. And for some reason, I started palling around with a bunch of the guys from Montgomery County, big delegation in the House, and they adopted me. They let me come to their dinners, and sometimes they were talking serious stuff, and sometimes it was just, shooting the breeze, but they adopted me. And I gained a relationship with them and got to learn a little bit of how they think, which is different than the way people in Bucks County think, by the way. I had the opportunity to share office with Dave Heckler. We came in together, and we were about as different as two Republicans could be, just because of geography and kind of our kind of socioeconomic worlds that we represented. Later on, I somehow got adopted by the Delaware County delegation. And I used to tease those guys when they would get to maybe, having a little debate among themselves. I used to always tell them, I said, you guys need to get your delegation under control, because I certainly have the Jefferson County delegation under control. But it is an important point that getting to know and understand our colleagues is the real key to success in this business. And although I could go on and on and on, I won't. Thank you. And I'm even having trouble coming up with some of my favorite wisecracks, which I certainly like to do. Senator Pileggi has been the brunt of a few of those. It's hard to tell if he actually laughed or not because, he's got that stone face. I should tell one story. I don't know if you've ever heard this one. We're in a budget meeting, and there was a former Democrat majority leader sitting at the table, and he came up with something he wanted to look at doing, and he was all serious, respectfully serious about what he was proposing. And Senator Pileggi was sitting there shaking his head like he does. Don't ever believe that means he's agreeing with you. That just means he's hearing you. And Senator Pileggi said, that's worthy of further staff evaluation. Well, I knew what that meant. I had grown to know Dominic. I knew what that meant. The former Democrat majority leader didn't. He thought he won the day. So there is that. I would like to leave you with one thing, and this is on a very serious note. And this is a serious business, and I often say I don't take myself seriously, but I take this job very seriously, and I hope that that doesn't get lost. When Benjamin Franklin was, they were wrapping up the Constitutional Convention. It was on Monday, September 17th in 1787. And he was in his 80s, he was weak, and he couldn't speak very loudly, so he actually prepared this speech, and another gentleman read this speech as they were closing up the Constitutional Convention. And if you get the whole copy, it's not long, and it's a great summarization of what governing is all about. And I want to read one statement out of this page-long speech. For when you assemble a number of men to have the advantage of their joint wisdom, you inevitably assemble with those men all their prejudices, their passions, their errors of opinion, their local interests, and their selfish views. The gist of what he was telling the members of this Constitutional Convention was, I don't like everything in this Constitution. I don't even think I agree with it. But I've learned that my personal view, that I think I'm always right, as each of us, we all come here thinking we're right. We know what the answers are. He recognized, and as the older he got, that while he may think he's right, he may not be. And it's important for each of us to be effective at governing, to understand that we are fallible, that we do not have all the answers individually, and that collectively, what our business is about, what it is about, is collectively coming up with something that works. And Franklin encapsulated that in this short speech he gave to close out the convention. He added one more thing. He said, if you all leave here to go back to your respective constituencies, to the various states, and they had to go home and sell this thing, right? He said, if you go back and amplify and try to build partisan support or opposition because of the things you don't like in this Constitution, will have failed. If you go back and talk about what is good about it, we will succeed. And that is much of what we're about. Amplify the good, don't amplify what you don't like, and understand that you inevitably assemble those men with all their prejudices, their passions, their errors of opinion, their local interests, and their selfish views. Thank you so much for this great honor. I appreciate it, Senator. I know I'm just a pawn in your game today, but I appreciate it. It's been a great honor and a great privilege to address the Senate. I truly mean that. It's a great honor. Thank you very much.
Senate will be at ease.